To unpack the implications of this renewed Nile alliance, we're joined up by Mickey El Mughrabi, the international relations analyst. Mr. Mughrabi, thank you very much for joining us. What strategic significance do you see in this Cairo meeting between President Sisi and Al-Burhan at this particular moment?
Yes, Al-Burhan Sisi meeting comes in when Sudan now in a decisive crossroad. Yes, the Sudanese army is gaining more power and more lands on the ground, but still the unhumanitarian siege around the Fashi, the humanitarian situation in other areas of Sudan. Also, Sudan needs diplomacy to bring more friends closer to Sudan to support Sudan, and Egypt has a big role on that. Also, the meeting came just one day after Sharm el-Sheikh summit, and Sharm el-Sheikh summit has proven again and again the Egyptian leverage in the region and the Egyptian regional importance, because it was very clear, even in Gaza peace, you cannot enforce any agreement without Egypt. You need whatever agreement that you have, you need Egypt for the full enforcement and safe enforcement for the agreement. And that means Egypt is the biggest player now in the Middle East and also in the region of the East Africa. And this is why Sudan needs Egypt now, and the meeting is very important.
Well, how does this now alignment reshape the regional balance of power on the Nile, especially after the years of stalled negotiations?
Sudan and Egypt are close together in the issue of Nile, not just for politics, but also because both countries are downstream countries, and that appeared clearly in Entebbe agreement. Both countries against this agreement from long time, and Ethiopia are playing a game to promote for this agreement among other Nile Basin countries, and the latest one was South Sudan. But that doesn't work because the historical agreements are protecting the full rights for the downstream countries, Sudan and Egypt. But still, the solution is negotiation and talks. Sudan and Egypt, they push together their against Entebbe agreement, and Ethiopia supported this agreement and other countries, but still we need more talks to solve this issue.
Well, Ethiopia insists on its sovereign right to development. How can that then coexist with the downstream nations' right to water security? How can they balance the right for development for Ethiopia and safeguarding Sudan and Egypt's water share?
First of all, we need to confirm for all African nations and all the world, Sudan and Egypt, they never stood against Ethiopian rights in development, in using the Nile water for its own development. So the position of Sudan and Ethiopia is supportive for development of all African nations and their neighbor Ethiopia. But Ethiopia made mistakes in using its rights in the water, and now here's the situation. We have the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, and we don't have any mechanism to share information that can make Sudan safe and Egypt safe. And now Sudan is facing a very tough season, and the cooperation and the coordination between the two countries are not helping that. But still, I can say that we have some good times before. I can remember I was in Addis Ababa at that time as a freelance correspondent when Sisi visited Addis Ababa, and he addressed the Ethiopian parliament. And I wrote at that time the pharaoh among the nobles from the Aksumite Empire. So I just to put the history together. And at that time, there was a good spirit between the three countries, but we lost that. We need to bring that again, and that start with Ethiopia to stop doing unilateral action regarding the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam.
Mr. Mughrabi, now, given Sudan's fragile internal situation, can Khartoum sustain a unified stance with Cairo, or might it face pressure then to compromise?
Luckily, yes, we went through very tough time in Sudan, and it was very fragile situation, but luckily now the situation is better than it was. And now the government is back to Khartoum, and just a few times that you will face, you will find different Sudan that can stand and no compromise. Actually, this issue, even during tough time for Sudan, there is no compromise on the issue of the Nile and the rights in the Nile. We need to stand together, but also I can count on Sudan on making a good role in having more mediation efforts to stop the external actors from playing with African countries. My advice always for African countries that whenever you have disputes, this dispute will witness an external actor from outside the continent to use countries against each other. And that thing, we should stop it, and Sudan should play a role in this.
Well, do you think, sir, the quadripartite mechanism's upcoming meeting in Washington could provide an international push or influence towards a political settlement?
Sudan opposed having a big role for the Quad mechanism, but that wasn't in a strong tone, because we know that in the Quad mechanism there is Egypt and Saudi Arabia, and both those countries are standing with Sudan now. But still, the multilateral intervention is not welcomed in Sudan. Because if you have multi-party intervention and Sudan out of that, and other countries may impose a player to be within this multi-party intervention, and that cannot be okay with Sudan. So that Sudan counts on direct and bilateral relation with Egypt, good and bilateral relation with Saudi Arabia, and that already existed with Egypt and Saudi Arabia. And we need to continue in direct talks with United States, and that already happened in Zurich and happening now indirectly. And also we need to fix Sudan's United Arab Emirates relation, and before that there was an Egyptian initiative or mediation, and that could be something delayed, but still we need to play with all, and we need to have good relation with the bilateral relation with the members of the Quad.
Well, many experts do share your concern and warn of a creeping regionalization of the GERD issue. Do you foresee wider African or Arab involvement in mediation?
Historically, the Arab nation stand with Egypt and Sudan. And I can say that most of the Arab nations standing with Sudan and Egypt. We need that because I can tell you in Africa now, the image of this dispute and conflict is not in the correct way that we can say that Africa could be balanced. We need more efforts with Africa. We need more efforts to tell them they should look at this dispute with an African eye, not to be used by external actors.
Yes. Well, I have to ask this. I mean, assuming a bad scenario or worst case scenario, if diplomacy fails, what long-term consequences could this have for the political stability and environmental security of the region?
That is a good question, but still a tough question, because no one wants this scenario to happen.
Of course.
Yes, all people, they want diplomacy to win and the mediation to win. and to tell the world another story that Sudan and Ethiopia and Egypt came together and have a good agreement. But I think that scenario could happen. My advice is that we need to fix the problem of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, or the problem of having not a good level of coordination, or at least sometimes zero coordination between the three countries. That could make this situation happen, and that could make your tough question real.